If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know how I feel about Sapphic romance. I absolutely love being able to showcase queer authors and queer stories. But today we get a special extra bonus because we have Sam Saldivar, who is a queer Latina author who writes Sapphic sports romance. And I loved getting into the nitty-gritty of the sports, understanding the different storylines that take place in each of her books, and what we can expect for her next book, which comes out in 2027. So if you like your romances sapphic and sporty, this is the episode for you. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains mature content intended for adult audiences only. Hello, Sam. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. If you could start by telling everyone who you are and a bit about your author journey.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be joining the podcast. I'm Sam. If you see my books, you'll see Samantha Saldivar on them. I've written in the sapphic sports romance space now for almost a year. My first book, Play You For It, came out in October. And then my second book, Running Home to You, came out in May. We'll get into the books themselves, but first one's more of like a workplace forbidden romance, and the second one, Running Home to You, is like long second chances. But really like writing in the sports space. I have a background in journalism and broadcast production, so a lot of that comes into play. But mostly I just love playing sports, watching sports. I've always been a big fan, so I'm just kind of following what I love, and that's how my writing's come to be over the last couple years.
Yeah, I'm so curious why you went the traditional route. No wrong answers at all, which everybody gets to decide what works best for them. But so often people are like, oh, well, I had this story and I wanted to tell it, and it was just sitting in my brain and nothing was happening on the trad side, so I just went with it. What did that process look like for you as you were deciding whether you wanted to go maybe the indie route or the trad route?
I was honestly writing with the idea that if nothing got published, I would be okay with it, because I guess I'm in it for the love of the game. I don't know. But I had written one manuscript, and I think I sent it out to like 10 agents, and I didn't get a bite. And for me, I was like, that's enough for me. I'll never do this again. And I just went back in my little hole, and I wrote 3 more manuscripts. And every time I would finish one, I would just give it to my wife. And this was over the period of 2 years. And every time she's like, you got to start like submitting. Please do something with this. These are like pretty good. I don't know. I think they are. So I finally agreed to give it a second shot after like my 4th manuscript. And I did end up landing an agent and landing at Dell. Kind of happened fast for me. I think I got lucky. So I don't know. I think self-published was in the back of my head, but I will say I'm a little type B, a little lazy. And I think people self-publishing work so hard to market themselves and do the publicity and connect with readers and be on social media. And I just really admire that. I don't know if I would like have it in me to do all those things for myself. Like both sides have advantages and disadvantages. And in trad publishing, you get a little bit more of that like infrastructure. Even if you have a big list ahead of you or you're not let's say like a lead title, it still really worked out for me, I think. Something I like am happy to lean on. But I think the self-publishing route is really awesome for writers who aren't breaking into trad. And I just really admire everybody who just put so much effort into getting their books out in the world and the followings they build and the content they're putting out there too, like the stories themselves. But yeah, I ended up on the trad side. That's kind of how that came to be. I think I just got lucky. It takes a little luck, honestly, to land in that space too, I think.
Yeah, so much work that goes into one, writing the book.
Yeah, that in itself is a lot of work.
That in itself is a ton of work. And the fact that you were like, I'm just going to keep writing for the love of it. 4th manuscript, do you think that having that many helped you to present, here is more than just one book, it's not just one? And when you were working with your agent, were they able to pitch multiple books at once, or was it one at a time in that process? I'm so curious about that trad publishing side.
I think when I told them I had 4, they're like, oh my God, like, and what period of time? Like, I don't know. I'm just what I like to do in any free moment. But we ended up just going on sub with one book, which was Play You For It. But when it came time to like, oh, do you have any more projects, things like that, we were able to be like, yeah, there's another one that's done and ready to go if you're interested. And it turned into a 2-book deal. And then in that time, we sold the option, which was like another one of those manuscripts, which is also sports romance. They're all kind of in the same world, so I'm doing the same thing. But that's kind of how that worked. It wasn't like we went on and were like trying to sell 4 manuscripts at once. Really just focused on the one that felt the strongest. And that's how I got my agent too, was just pitching the one project, and then once we kinda got into it, it was like, "Surprise, I have all these other book children if you are interested in adopting them as well." So, that worked out.
Ha, surprise.
Surprise. Hopefully it's a big surprise.
Right. Oh my goodness. That is funny. Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like sapphic romance is having a trad resurgence, kind of. I wish we had more sapphic romances, 100%, and I wish more were trad published, but I feel like it might have been easier, and I say easier very loosely, to sell because we had people like Meryl Wilson coming out with all of these sapphic sports romances, very focused on sapphic sports. And I feel like left, right, and center, we're getting a lot more of the like sports era, but make it sapphic, which I love. And I wish that they got more love. We do have an episode, I'll make sure I link it in the show notes, on lesbophobia and some of the pushback when it comes to sapphic romance, and just it's frustrating, especially as a bisexual woman. Like,
Yeah.
come on, give love to both, please and thank you. But I think that it's so important that we're getting these stories out there. And did you find it hard as a Latina? Did you find it hard to, I guess, advocate for your stories, especially because you have Latina representation in the stories? Was that something that you maybe came up against, or maybe someone said, hey, why don't we make them more white, or anything like that?
Fortunately, no, and I think
Awesome.
we're seeing more sapphic romances come out, but I also think we're seeing more opportunities for BIPOC writers and characters. I think there's a hunger for that, and maybe it's been really slow, whether we were slow to realize, like, "Oh, people wanna read sapphic stories." Now we're like, "Oh, people wanna be represented within these stories as well." So, I always like to believe in progress, even if it's slow, and you mentioned authors like Meryl Wilsner or Ashley Heron Blake who've been in the game for a while. I always think of there's a lot of people who came before me,
Mm.
and I feel really fortunate. I just kinda keep grinding out what's true to me, and as a Latina woman, I fortunately haven't experienced much pushback or like, "Yeah, let's make these characters, like, Caucasian," or something like that. I think
Awesome.
it brings a lot to what I'm trying to do as well. It's not necessarily the main focus of my characters. For instance, in the softball book, one of my main characters is a Latina woman, and her dad was Puerto Rican and was a baseball player too, and it wasn't just that I wanted to make them Latino because I did, but it was also like there's this great rich heritage and culture of Latino and African American baseball players who came
Yeah.
from the Caribbean islands and the Dominican Republic, and it was so cool to represent that in a way. And it was really important for me to infuse that in the story and be like, no, it wasn't the only reason I wanted to do it, but to also be like, this is real to true life if you look at the MLB or sports in general. So I tried to keep that in mind as I write my characters. Obviously, my heritage is part of it, but it's also just reflecting the truth of the sports world. You look at like any court or field, it's not all white. There's a lot of color out there, and I love representing that.
Yeah, I think it's so important. My family's Puerto Rican, I'm Afro Latina. And one of the things about this podcast that I wanted to make sure was represented was like when I'm conversing with the publicists or the people who are supporting the traditionally published authors, be like, oh, we have all of these books coming out in the next month. And I'm like, cool, which ones are BIPOC? Like, which
Yeah.
of your authors are BIPOC? Because those are the ones that I want to talk to. And I remember specifically how we connected was that your publicist or one of them was like, hey, I noticed that you have we were talking about one specific author that was on their roster. And they were like, we have a Latina that we think would be really great. We'd love to get her on your podcast. And I was like, say less.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah, that's what I'm asking for. Please send them my way. And I think that it's so important that we are getting the representation, like you said, not just for the sapphic romance, because yes, that is getting a resurgent, but for those that have the BIPOC representation as well, in authentic representation, which I think is things that are not harmful stereotypes or any of that stuff, because we do see a lot of that even in traditionally published romances, which can be very frustrating.
That can be hard, and I like to think people have good intentions, but it's just really if you're not coming from the right place, you don't have people around you or sensitivity readers, and that's where it gets sticky. And I think not just representation, but the right representation or authentic stories, authentic voices is so important. And again, that's why it does it is important to have like BIPOC authors in the conversation and advocated for. And I think podcasters like you or reading influencers, I feel like my job doesn't end, but it's like all I can do is really write the work and hope that like someone latches onto it. And I think people advocating on the readership side is really what does help, is going out of the way to say, I want a story with my representation, or who are your BIPOC authors, as opposed to just kind of being like, well, there's nothing out there, like I'll just grab whatever. So I think just really intentional reading and who we're supporting or who we're lifting up and the voices we want to hear is really important too.
Yeah, especially in today's climate.
Yes.
Like,
Say less. Yeah.
we don't even need to go there, but
Yeah.
y'all know. And if you don't,
For sure.
I would like to be under the rock that you're under also.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But okay, so let's talk a little bit more about your first book. Give us the rundown of like what to expect, what tropes, the characters, a little more behind the scenes on that.
Yeah, so my first book, Play For It. So that is a basketball themed book. So it's about a kind of was inspired in by real life events. So a lot of my sports books are like I consume a lot of sports, love all the storylines that take place. And again, I had some background in sports journalism, especially in college. That's like what I wanted to do. So now I'm rambling. But to get into the book, it's basically about a sports journalist who's working at a regional TV station, and she's really fighting her way into a male-dominated field. One of the teams she covers is David Douglas Bulldogs, and they have a woman assistant coach on their men's team. But when the head coach, who's a man, steps down, he's really adamant that, like, hey, Jordan needs to take over. But it makes her the first woman to coach a D1 men's basketball team. And that actually really has never happened in real life. There's been assistant coaches. Yeah, I know. Fingers crossed. Let's get someone in there. Let's get Dawn Staley or like someone. Becky Hammon, she got to be like an interim head coach for one game. So she made history in the NBA before she came back over to the WNBA. But yeah, so their dynamic is very like journalists can't fall for sources. So it becomes very like forbidden workplace romance, forced proximity. They're constantly seeing each other at games and interviews. And Beck, the sports reporter, is just constantly trying to get the first sit down interview with Jordan. So that kind of becomes a game that they play with each other and kind of fuels the book. But there's a lot of basketball action in it, as well as, you know, the romance.
Yes, of course, we need the romance.
Yeah, we need the romance.
What I love about that is that there is a person who's in a position of power to pull up the women. And I think that is so incredibly important in life. I was literally just having a conversation with my 11-year-old about this because I was like, look, you're going to grow up, you're going to be a man, and there are going to be people around you who do not have the same advantages as you. You will have tons more rights than I will ever, most likely in my life. And so it is up to you to take a stand to support the people around you, the people who are, especially women, around you, and bring them up. And I told him the story about how I had gotten a new manager. I worked in manufacturing for quite a bit of time. Very male-dominated industry. One of 5 women to 150 guys. What I had gotten hired in at, I was doing work that was not normal for the position I had gotten hired in at. They had given me more work because when you're good at something, then they give you more things to do.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My boss, he had transitioned to becoming my boss because the other boss had left. And he sat me down and he was like, Alicia, you are severely underpaid. Here is your new raise. And the reason that I was able to push for this is because this is the amount of work you're doing that is similar to this other person who's at this pay scale. And I explained this to my kid. I'm like he could have just saved the money for his department, or he could have given one of his buddies a promotion and gotten them a pay increase. But he took the time to make sure that I got paid what I was worth. Hands down, one of the best managers I ever had. So many life lessons that I learned from this guy. But I think that part of the story is so incredibly important. And I think that in real life, it's so important. And having seen that reflected in my own life was like, that is so great to be able to have someone say, nope, I want to advocate for this person. They know what they're doing. They have the capabilities. They've been trained under me. Let this person be in there. And so when you were coming up with that kind of idea, I know you wanted a woman in a quote unquote male dominated field, but what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think it's such a good point because in my life too, there's been like men or colleagues who have been in a position to lift me up and not just lift me up, but be like, no, like Sam is qualified to do this, whether it was for campus TV in the sports department or the radio station or even at news stations I had worked at. And I think sometimes there's like this assumption in like the sapphic romance realm, like, oh, we gotta like hate men or there can't be any like men in the story. And I think, especially in Play For It, there's good guys and bad guys. Like, there's men who are absolute assholes in that book who definitely try to get in Jordan's way and Beck's way and in both their separate career fields, whether it's on the team or at the station where Beck works. But I also wanted to represent, like, there are men out there who do a good thing, who are, like, either a buddy that you could talk to or someone who's seeing the injustice taking place and can actually step in. And I think it's important to highlight that too, even for men to read or like young men like your son. Look at this guy, it's fiction, but still these things happen every day. And are you going to be the guy who's trying to put women down, or are you going to be the one who's lifting them up? And I don't think that's centering men. I think it's just giving them like some tools and examples as well to kind of, I don't know, to not sit on the sidelines when things like that are happening. So that was important to me for sure. To include men, even though it is a sapphic romance and that the romance is still very much at the center of that, like very queer. And it was a men's basketball team also.
Right.
So that was a little different. I know some people maybe don't like that, but I felt like it was like a kind of a feminist moment to have a woman leading this team and letting people imagine and see that as well for all the good and the bad that came with it.
Yeah, so true. Going into your next one, which recently came out, yay. As you like I'm like, what was your thought process writing it? But you had already written 4 books at that
Yeah.
point. So you're like,
I know,
I don't
which
maybe
one was
remember.
that again? Where was my headspace? I actually have they all kind of blur together because as I would finish one, I'm like, I have a great idea for another, and then like, I don't know how they all popped in my head.
That is like, how does it pop into your head? Are you someone who, I guess the planner or pantser is the phrase that people use? Do you
Oh
plan
yeah,
these
people
out
use that.
or fly by the seat of your pants?
I don't know, I'm a little of both. Sometimes I'll have a scene in mind that, like, I really want it. Like, for Play For It, for example, there's a scene where Jordan and Beck play horse together for, like, the interview, and Jordan's like, "I'll let you do the interview if you can beat me at horse," and she doesn't know that Beck played a little bit of college basketball and, like, totally hustles her, and I always thought I'm like, "That would be such a fun scene in a romance," and I didn't even know their names or, like, the circumstances, so I kinda started from there and then worked my way back and then worked my way forward. So I'm like a planner and a pantser. I'll have some big points and then I'll just let myself write my way into them. And as I'm doing that, I'll be taking notes and like outlining what's going to lead to the next thing. So it's almost like storyboarding, but not really. I wish I knew how my own brain worked because I think I'd be far more efficient than all my like swirling ideas.
I think that it works though, right? At this point, you've written 4. So tell us a bit about your new book. What can we expect? Running Home to You. And it is a baseball romance.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
why baseball? Why not just stick with basketball? And what
Yeah.
was your thought process there?
So, yeah, baseball, like softball romance too. And I felt like softball, especially, was underrepresented in the sports, like romance realm in general, especially there's a lot of hockey now. um,
Yes.
I still feel like there's a lot of basketball. I just thought in general softball wasn't really well represented. And it's my favorite sport. I played softball growing up. I love watching it. I still play in like an adult rec league every
So
weekend.
cool.
Haven't let it go. I'm a lot slower now though. So I really wanted to write a softball romance. And I'm also one of those people, I love sports movies. So this applies to Play For It too. But I love like the 90s, early 2000s, like Field of Dreams, Rookie of the Year, A League of Their Own, could go down the list.
Right.
Mighty Ducks Played to Death. I'm pretty sure it broke VHS too. But all of those sort of vibes have always inspired like my sports romances. And for this one, I definitely wanted that spiritual, mythical feel of like the softball field and it being this really special place where these two young women like fall for each other. They're really competitive at first and then just wear each other down as they work together. And it really goes from rivals to kind of friends and teammates to lovers over these couple years that they're in college. And then it goes beyond then as well. It's like an 8-year span. And that was something else I was really excited to do. It was the first time I sat down and wrote this like epic romance. It really felt like an epic, especially to be with these women for so long and seeing them grow. I feel like even their voices change, like the dialogue changes as they get older. And they both have or their own issues they're dealing with, things like religious trauma, grief, addiction, those sort of things are sprinkled throughout their story. So there's some heavier themes, just a lot of like love. It's definitely a slow burn and some second chances worked in as well. Cause again, over that long period of time, some things had to get messy in 8
Yep.
years.
I'm always so fascinated by second chance because in real life, it is my least favorite trope. My brain cannot handle why anyone would, in real life, break up and then get back together. It's
I
just
totally respect that, actually. I'm the same way. I'm like, once scorned, I'm like, "Nope, I will never talk to you again."
so
I'm not one of those
amazing.
lesbians who's friends with my exes. I'm just like, "Nope." So I totally get that.
We had an episode recently with Babe in Library. It is her favorite trope in romance. And so she was like, I don't need to sell the audience. I need to sell Alicia. Second chance romance. And I was like, I guess if it's done well, it's fine. And my brain is like, I can suspend my belief for a lot of things. Read a lot of monster romance. But the second chance tends to be harder. But I feel like authors do it so well. It's so interesting to me that they're able to actually make me root for these people to get back
You get
together
drawn back in every time.
every time. And so as you're navigating that in real life, feeling like, oh God, no, never. But also, how do you write it in a way where you believe it too, that these characters can grow, that they can do and be better to get back together?
Yeah, I think you said it. I have to convince myself first. If I don't believe it, how is anyone reading gonna believe it? And for me to believe it, especially in this story, I think this is my only second chances romance because it's not in the first one. It's not in the. I have a third sports book that'll be out March 2027, but we can talk about that later.
Yes.
This one's the only second chances, and I think the reason for me that it worked, that like I believed in it, so I'm like these characters really need to like change
Mhm.
before like I'm gonna allow them to get back together. I wanted them to resolve all their issues, and they went off on their own separate path. And I wouldn't say they become different people, but they earn each other back, if that makes sense. They resolve the things that were keeping them apart before, and not just, oh, actually, screw all those things we said in our fight. Let's get back together and everything will be good this time. So I think that's how I convinced myself and believed in it, is seeing the character growth. Gotta grow the characters. That's probably the biggest part about, I think, a successful second chance romance that I believe in also. Not just my own, but any.
Yeah. Do you think that having such an epic journey for these two helped that along in a way where they were able to maybe resolve more of those things instead of like, oh, well, 1 year later, he
Yeah.
grows like that in a
No,
year?
yeah, absolutely. You're a much different person, I think, from your early 20s, college to maybe mid late 20s. A lot of change happens then, good and bad, but you're going to be a different person for sure. And if you walk away from a relationship, I think you come back into it with some different perspective and life experiences. So that definitely helped the second chances as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. My husband and I are celebrating 10 years next
Oh my gosh,
week.
congrats.
It's just, yes, wild. And we've been together for 13, but thinking about the kids we were then
Yeah.
when we like first got together and I got pregnant fairly quickly. And we've been parents for the most of our relationship, even looking at, okay, who I was postpartum after the first kid was very different than who I was postpartum after the second kid. And then moving, we moved from New Jersey to North Carolina and moving and taking that journey of separating ourselves from the life that we had established at that point to establish a new life together was very different, and the things I care about now, completely different than 6 years ago, too. I feel like COVID just amplified a lot of things for a lot of people.
Totally. Yeah.
But, like, even thinking, okay, when we were first started dating, our frontal lobes weren't even fully developed at that point, like, at all, and so now they are, which, like, we were partying and hanging out, and just, like, that was life, and now it's like So you wanna go to dinner at 3?
Yes. In bed by 7? Oh my god, what a dream.
We're just gonna lay on the couch and watch a movie together? That sounds great.
Yeah, but hey, it shows also that 10 years and through all those different stages, I feel like that's not validating, that doesn't sound like a very sexy word, but just, I don't know, confirms that you're with the right person if you can evolve together. That's so cool. I wish we got to see more of that in romance. I know epic romances aren't really like that. I don't wanna say popular, but it's hard to convince someone to buy a book that's super long or something, but I always think that's cool to see people evolve. I wish we got more of that in romance. I don't know what kind of trope it would be called, but I don't know, seeing couples beyond the meet cute moment and the trope and just there's not a lot of boring life
So
between
much
2
life.
characters. Don't you wanna see them go to dinner at 3 PM?
No.
So maybe that's why.
Maybe, especially because we live so far from family, we get one major dinner out together, and usually it's around our anniversary, and we will spend hours at this dinner, like, closing the place down usually. They're like, "We need y'all to
Oh my
go."
gosh,
And
it's
we're
sweet
like,
though.
"Oh, my bad." Like, but it works for us. We don't need that all the time, but the one time we do get it, it's awesome, and I said to my kiddo the other day, I was like, "Don't talk to my best friend like that," because he was back talking his dad, and he looked at me like, "Dad's your best friend?" And I was like, "Why would I marry someone who is not my best friend? It doesn't make any sense. What is
Shattered
this?"
his mind. He's like,
Right.
"Wait, hold on, my parents are people besides just my parents? They have individual relationships with each other?" Like
We have separate bedrooms, which is wonderful, and people should talk about that more because he starfishes and I snore,
okay.
and I work late. He gets up early for work. It just doesn't make sense for us to have the same bedroom. Still intimate all the time, does not change any of that stuff. Like, it's fine. But I sat my kids down and I was like, "Hey, I just want you guys to know everything's fine with mom and dad. We just have separate bedrooms now." And my 11-year-old was like, "Nobody thought anything was wrong. He touches your butt all the time, mom." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm over here worried about nothing."
That's awesome.
But I think that we can see that sometimes in romance when we get interconnected series. And you
Yeah,
can
that's
see the
true.
previous couples. I'm always excited to see the previous couples and, like, what they're doing, what's going on, how are they growing. I'm thinking even about this dystopian series by Elizabeth Stevens that I recently reread, and the first book is about the first couple, and Elizabeth recently started releasing book 4 chapter by chapter in her Patreon. If you're into that, go check it out. It's wonderful. But to hear things about the original couple in book 4 and their storyline still, here's what's happening with them, even though we're talking about a completely different couple now, I just eat it up. I love it so much. And so I feel like an epic romance would be fantastic.
No, that's true, and I love that too. I know Ashley Herring Blake did that with Delilah Green, and you
Yes.
kinda see them in the next couple books, and I think Anita Kelly's done that as well, and it makes me wanna go read the other books. So I'm like, "Oh, this couple seems cute," and
Right.
you can kinda go back and get their story, so I do like that a lot, like the interconnected sort of, like, little Easter eggs also.
So much fun. All right, so you have another book that's coming out in 2027. What is
Yeah.
it? What can we expect? Which
Yeah.
sport is it?
It's a soccer book, obviously, I just can't not write sports. It's a soccer book, it's called Giving Up the Game, and it's more about one main character is a professional soccer player, kinda inspired by greats like Abby Wambach or Megan Rapinoe, but she's on the back half of her career. She's already won all her gold medals, and she's fighting injuries and head trauma, things like that, but really unwilling to give up the game, so to speak, and till she connects with the other love interest and but yeah, I was really inspired by athletes like Tom Brady, Brett Favre, like all these people who were so big at the top of their game, but then just struggled so badly to actually retire or would retire and then come back. I think even Michael Jordan did that. And I read Abby Wambach's autobiography, and I know it was really hard for her to walk away. And how do you let go of your identity at that point too, when you've just defined yourself by the sports and that's how the world knows you, and all of a sudden it's like you're getting closer to 40, sorry, you are old news now and too slow, because also you're not that old, but by athletic standards
Right.
you hit mid-30s and you're just toast, which I guess I can relate to because I don't know. It's a lot harder to play now than it was when I was like in my 20s and a teenager. So I guess I can see some of that. But that's what a lot of giving up the game is about.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing something for 10, 15, 20 years and then being like, "And I'm going to stop this, and I still have 3/4 of my life left.
Yeah.
What do I do with the rest of my life? Do I do the thing that's quote unquote expected of me? Create some fundraiser, go to some some
Yeah.
charity dinners. That doesn't sound exciting or entertaining or interesting. Do I go and write a book about my life? There's so many different things you can do, but do you actually want to?
Yeah. How does that compare to what you were doing before? I can't imagine it would, especially if you're winning World Cups or like Olympics, things like that. I think that would just feel like such a step down. Obviously, never have gotten to experience that, but yeah, I that was definitely huge inspiration for giving up the game, and I'm excited for that one to be out in the world eventually too. That one's fun also because I think you might have hit on it earlier, but the first book and Play For It, it's two women both in the sports industry. They're not playing, but it's a coach and reporter. Running Home to You, it's two teammates on the same team. And in Giving Up the Game, it's a soccer player, and the love interest has like nothing to do with sports, doesn't care about sports, is more of a like part of this like political family, but isn't really like wanting to necessarily step into her role there either. But it was fun to write a couple where like they weren't both so like in the sport. One of them was just like, I don't care. So that was a fun dynamic and something different. I like to bring something a little different to each book. It keeps me engaged too. So that's one difference for sure.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I cannot imagine having to stop. I even think WrestleMania happened. My kids are really into WWE. And WrestleMania recently happened, and I wanna say it wa oh god, I'm gonna get the name wrong.
You could just make something up. I don't know. I'd be like, yeah, yeah,
Right? That guy.
totally. Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, I believe, is the person, and he had semi-retired, came back, and I'm pretty sure he went against Obafemi. There's like a 20, 30-year age gap between these 2.
Dang.
And, like, they're both my kids would be like, "Mom, you're supposed to know this stuff." I can't think of what the word like, Andre the Giant, they're like the mega monsters or whatever. They have, like, their categories. There's the heels and the baby faces, and then there's the mega monster dude. I don't know. Anyway, they're big dudes. These are the big ones. And when he got beat by Obafemi, I'm pretty sure it was Obafemi. It might not have, it might have been somebody else. But this is like mid-20s, and Brock Lesnar's 45, 50s, maybe older than that. He like literally was sitting on the mat. The competitor had already left, and everybody is like cheering him. You got this. It's so good. It's WrestleMania, so everybody's there. And you could see he was just like, "I'm done."
Oh, that's
And I was
sad.
like, my heart I mean, it obviously could have been literally the script, but I was
True,
feeling
yeah.
it. I was feeling all of it. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And my husband's like, "Why are you freaking out?" I'm like, "He's gonna take his shoes off. Oh my goodness." Like, literally sitting there, he's taking his shoes off,
Oh my
like,
god.
like, dramatic as hell. And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." And my kids are just like, "Oh, this is wild. We're seeing history being made. He's
Yeah,
literally
like
retiring right now." And he just leaves his shoes there, and then he walks off with whatever, Undertaker's manager. He's so creepy. And so he walks off with him, hugs him, and, like, everybody is like, "No!" in the whole arena, and I'm just like so, like, that's where my brain
yeah, it's
went.
like the ultimate sports retirement, like, in real time. Yeah,
I
it's sad,
know.
especially when I don't know, you think of these people as, like, heroes or, like, indestructible or something like that. I think that gets to everybody. It's sad when you see an athlete or someone you looked up to just, like, kinda not collapse, but just kinda walk away, and you're like, "Gosh, that was the end of an era. I didn't realize how much it meant to me," or, "Oh, they're done." And you
Right.
can see how much their sport or their team meant to them for sure.
Yeah. So interesting. So I'm excited for your book. I know you do lots of sports, but if you could write a novella about a sapphic romance with a different sport, what would be like a sport that you're like, I don't maybe know enough about this one, but I would love to write a romance in it?
Oh my gosh, it's weird because I know this one off the top of my head. I know nothing really about rowing, but I just find it so interesting and intense, and it's I don't know how to describe like a stiff sport almost. You have to be very mechanical, and everyone who does it is very, like, tall and I feel, like, serious, but you're all in a boat together, and you have your little they call it the coxswain, right? The one who's at the front of the boat, and they're the ones, like, always yelling. They're usually smaller than everyone else. I'm like, "That's what I would have to do."
I'd be the
That's
one
what
yelling at
you
the front.
yeah, I will yell at everyone. No, but I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of potential there for a good rowing romance, but
Yeah.
again, I don't really know anything about rowing, but I like to think it's kinda one of those, like, off the beaten track sort of sports that people wouldn't necessarily think would be conducive to a romance, but could be.
Can
So,
make it work.
that's
I'm already thinking of the
maybe
tropes.
one day, yeah. Just start writing some scenes down.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so if people want to buy your books, connect with you, see your lovely wife, any of that stuff, where can they find you, get to know you, connect with you, and all that?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram, or at least I try to be active on Instagram. So it's saldivar.samantha. So you can find me over there. I do have a Substack going now too, or I'm trying to post on that. So if you're at all interested in reading like longer blog sort of form things, feel free to subscribe. I don't think I'll ever make it not free or cost anything. And then, yeah, I have a website too, samanthasaldivar.com. So that has a lot of the info on just where to buy my books. Typically, it's just wherever you like to buy your books, whether that's local or somewhere else. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we will have links for all that in the show notes and the YouTube description for anyone doing other things as they're listening to us or watching us. So make sure that you go ahead and grab those links and go connect with Sam. Sam, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I've had a blast. This has been great.